just because we are broken people and might have doubt in our life, it doesn't mean that we're not a Christian, but maybe it is a sign of things we need to give up and things that we need to turn over to God. Hey, welcome to this week's edition of Ask the Pastor. This is a time where we expand upon our Sunday sermon message to just ask questions that maybe people inside our church ask, or just be able to dive a little bit deeper into our text. But we have some great ones today as we started this new series this week called The Week That Changed the World, looking at the last week of Jesus' earthly life. And the first question that I think is just so appropriate, because this week we talked about Jesus bringing peace to our world, is somebody asked is, can we have peace in our world? And I feel like the heart behind that is, can we ever get to this point where we achieve harmony across the globe and true world peace and have peace signs and hippie love and all that stuff and flowers in the air? And I'm not a pessimist, but I am a realist. And when we say, is there ever going to be a time when we have peace in our world? And I would say outside, from a Christian perspective, Jesus coming back and making everything perfect. And the answer would be no. Is our world is always going to be at unrest. Is there's never going to be a time that everything is happy and go lucky and things are getting better and better, because there are always wars, there is sickness, there's different ideologies, there's different worldviews. And if anything, in our recent time, having a connection through like the internet to see more of the world, it hasn't united people. It's really just further divided them. Because we can see how different people are, and then we can find people who are the same as us that might have a crazy view like other people might have, and then it just unites you against more people who think differently. And you look around our world and it just seems like it's never been more divided. But I will say, and Jesus actually will address this in a couple weeks as we look at him heading to the cross, that as Christians, we shouldn't try to start conflict. We shouldn't try to start war, but knowing that it's going to happen if we truly stick by the principles and stick by the truth that Jesus taught us in the Bible. That it is very countercultural, and it doesn't, not everything just can coexist alongside of truth, because if everything is true, then nothing is really true. And if we can take all of their ideologies and everything they want to accept and say they can live any lifestyle they want, they can pursue any sin they want, then it really doesn't line up with what Jesus brought us. Which brings us to our second question is, okay, so we have conflict in our world, and maybe we even have internal conflict. And this one says, my mind never seems to be at peace. Am I still a Christian? And this might go less towards conflict with other people, but maybe you have a lot of anxiety, you suffer with depression, you suffer with just maybe unfulfilled expectations in your life. And I want to just encourage you that on this side of heaven, there's always going to be that unrest. There's always going to be thinking like, oh, could I have done something better here? Could I have handled this relationship better? Could I have reacted better in this situation? Or why am I not here in my life? Or why is fill in the blank? And I think a few things is, one, I think that's our own sinful emotions. I think at times even Satan can use that to attack us, of trying to make us anxious and doubt our faith. But I think the other is that just because we are broken people and might have doubt in our life, it doesn't mean that we're not a Christian, but maybe it is a sign of things we need to give up and things that we need to turn over to God. And maybe if you're unsettled about your finances and your marriage and your parenting and your job, maybe that's an opportunity for saying, hey, what would it look like if I try to do less of this myself? If I stopped worrying about this so much and I started praying about it. I started seeking God's wisdom about it. I started looking in his Bible and say, what does God say about this situation I'm living for? And giving it up to him and having faith that he can deal with it, rather than just trying to do it on our own. And this, I think, here's the hard way though, which comes to our third question. Because I think a lot of times we don't do that. Instead, we do this other thing. And it says, can God give us peace through man-made things? There's a lot of ways to find peace. The question maybe becomes is how long does that peace last? A lot of people find peace, and all of us can be guilty of this in really sometimes sinful or even zoning out things. When you talk about light stuff, you can find peace in entertainment. You can find peace in relaxation and kind of just being lazy. But typically, that only lasts for so long. So then people get into harder stuff. You can find peace through drugs. You can find peace through pornography. You can find peace through alcohol. All those things can help sometimes take the stress and the emotion and almost let you escape your situation for a little bit. But guess what? You're really not escaped from that situation. It might be gone in your mind and it's not weighing down on you in the moment. But when you wake up, when you get out of that haze, when you get out of that sin, when you get out of that moment, all those problems are still waiting for you. And they're still there at your doorstep where you have to deal with that stuff. And there's a lot of things in our world, I think, man-made things, even prescription drugs, if you want to go that far, that help us escape our anxieties and our depression and let us have peace in our mind. But it's not true and it's not lasting, which I think kind of transitions beautifully into our last question is what does it mean that Jesus is peace? We talked in this week about how peace is a person and how Jesus said that he came to bring peace to our world. He is the Prince of Peace. He is the King of Peace. And what I think for us to practically apply that today is we don't have peace in our lives because we're so caught up in either what we have to achieve, what we need to add to our life to complete, what do we need to strive for to find happiness, what do we need to escape from because it just draws us down. But when we say Jesus is peace, meaning he is everything that is missing in our life, that if you have Jesus and nothing else, you have all you need. Ecclesiastes 3:11 talks about eternity being set in the hearts of men, that we have an eternal God-sized hole in our hearts, and only an eternal God can fill that hole. And we try to fill it with relationships, with sin, with fill in the blank, money, possessions, everything, but all of it's going to fill it for a little bit before it becomes a big old gaping hole again. The only thing that can truly fill it, give us peace, give us contentment, give us rest, is the person of Jesus Christ. And when we pursue him, when we say, yes, he is my Savior, but he also is my portion daily, that he is all I need. And if I pursue him in his word, if I pray to him for comfort, if I find community in him with other people and churches and outside that, then that is all the peace that our weary world truly needs. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week.